You used my love like a credit card. Now it's time to pay the final bill.
Jack Merritt's hands froze over the tablet screen as the notification lit up the darkness of Platform 7. 200 miles offshore, surrounded by nothing but black water and the mechanical heartbeat of drilling equipment, he stared at a text message that would change everything. Running late, honey. Facial appointment went long. Don't wait up. XOXO Donna. The timestamp read 11:47 p.m. Her spa closed at 6. He'd been married to Dana for 18 years, long enough to know she never used XOXO in texts, long enough to know the Serenity Day Spa didn't do late-night facials, long enough to recognize the sick feeling crawling up his throat as betrayal. The tablet belonged to the rig's communication system, synced to emergency contacts. Dana had forgotten her smartwatch at home before his 2-week rotation, and it was still paired to his work account. She thought he couldn't see her messages out here in the Gulf. She was wrong. Jack saved the screenshot and deleted the notification. Around him, the night shift continued their rounds, boots clanging on metal walkways, voices calling out pressure readings. Nobody noticed the rigger in Section C had just discovered his wife was lying to him. He finished his shift in mechanical silence, running diagnostics on drilling equipment, while his mind ran diagnostics on his marriage. Every late meeting at the Parent-Teacher Association. Every girls' night that ran past midnight. Every time she'd seemed relieved when he left for the rig. The helicopter ride back to shore felt longer than usual. Jack sat in the passenger bay, safety harness tight across his chest, watching the Texas coastline grow larger through the window. His phone buzzed with a text from Dana. "Welcome home. Made your favorite dinner. Can't wait to see you." He didn't reply. The suburban streets of Clearwater looked different at dawn. Identical lawns, matching mailboxes, lives lived behind closed doors and drawn curtains. Jack parked his pickup in the driveway of 1247 Maple Street and sat for a moment, studying the house he'd been paying for with 14 years of offshore work. 2 stories, beige siding, black shutters, the American dream wrapped in vinyl and mortgage payments. Dana met him at the door in her silk robe, blonde hair perfectly styled even at 7 in the morning. She kissed his cheek and he smelled expensive perfume, not the drugstore stuff she usually wore. "How was the rotation?" she asked, already turning toward the kitchen. "Same as always." Jack set his duffel bag by the stairs and followed her. "How was your facial last night?" She didn't even pause. "Wonderful. Jenny really worked out the tension in my shoulders. Coffee?" Jenny. Not the name on the spa's schedule when he'd called during his shore break. Jenny didn't work Tuesday nights. Sure. Jack sat at the kitchen island and watched his wife pour coffee into his favorite mug. She wore diamond earrings he'd never seen before. "Those are new." Dana touched one earring and smiled. "Early birthday present to myself." "You like them?" Jack's birthday wasn't for 3 months. His wife had bought herself diamond earrings and lied about a facial appointment. The math was simple and ugly. "They're nice." He sipped his coffee and tasted nothing. "Where's Mira?" "Still sleeping. School doesn't start for another hour." Dana leaned against the counter, studying him. "You seem tired. Maybe you should rest. Maybe I should." Jack stood and headed for the stairs. "Going to grab a shower?" In the bathroom, he turned on the water and pulled out his phone. The screenshot from the rig was still there, time-stamped 11:47 p.m. He scrolled through his recent calls and found the number for Serenity Day Spa, dialed it again. "Serenity Day Spa, this is Michelle. Hi, I'm trying to reach Jenny about my wife's appointment last night." "Jenny? We don't have anyone named Jenny here, sir. And we close at 6 on weekdays." Jack hung up and stepped into the shower. The hot water couldn't wash away the cold certainty settling in his chest. His wife was having an affair, and she thought he was too stupid to notice. She was about to learn how wrong she was. The next 2 weeks passed in careful observation. Jack watched Dana like he watched pressure gauges on the rig, constantly, methodically, noting every fluctuation. She took longer getting ready in the mornings. She checked her phone obsessively. She started volunteering for evening PTA events that somehow always ran past 10 o'clock. Most telling was her mood. Dana had been cold and distant for months, complaining about his job, his absences, his lack of ambition. Now she was almost cheerful, humming while she cooked, buying new clothes, getting her nails done twice a week. Someone was making his wife happy. It wasn't him. On Thursday morning, Jack drove to his brother Luke's auto repair shop on the other side of town. Luke was 3 years younger, unmarried, and the only person Jack trusted completely. The shop smelled of motor oil and metal, familiar and honest smells that reminded Jack of their father's garage. "You look like hell," Luke said, wiping grease from his hands with a red rag. "Rough rotation? Something like that?" Jack leaned against the workbench. "Need to ask you something? You ever see Dana around town when I'm offshore?" Luke's expression shifted. "Why? Just asking." "Jack." Luke set down the rag. "Last week I saw her car parked behind Clearwater High around 9 at night. Thought it was weird since school events usually end by 7. "You sure it was her car?" "Silver Honda Accord, license plate says Dana Love." Hard to miss. Jack had bought Dana that car 2 years ago. She'd insisted on the vanity plates. Now they were helping him track her movements. "You think she's—" Luke didn't finish the sentence. "I think I need to be sure." Luke nodded slowly. "What do you need?" "Time, and maybe some help." That afternoon, Jack drove to an electronics store in Houston, paying cash for a prepaid phone and a small digital recorder. He opened a new bank account at a branch Dana never used, transferring half their savings to an account in his name only. He made an appointment with a private investigator named Patricia Wells, a former police detective who specialized in adultery cases. "Most men want to confront immediately," Patricia said across her desk. "That's usually a mistake. If you want leverage in a divorce, you need documentation. Photos, recordings, witnesses. Emotion destroys cases. Evidence wins them." Jack paid her retainer in cash. "How long?" "Give me 2 weeks. Stay normal at home. Don't change your behavior." "Let her get comfortable." Normal. Jack had forgotten what normal felt like. At home, he helped Mira with her algebra homework while Dana chatted on the phone in the next room. His 16-year-old daughter looked more like him every year. Dark hair, serious eyes, careful with words. She'd always been closer to Dana, but lately Jack noticed tension between them. "Mom's been acting weird," Mira said, erasing a wrong answer. "Like, really happy all the time. It's creepy." "Happy is good. Not this kind of happy. She bought me 3 new outfits last week and keeps asking about my friend's parents. Like, she's trying to be the cool mom or something." Jack helped her work through the next equation. "Your mom's always cared about what people think." "Yeah, but this is different." Mira lowered her voice. "She's been taking calls in the garage. Says it's PTA business, but she closes the door." The garage. Jack's workshop was attached to the house through the garage. He'd installed a security camera years ago to monitor his tools. The camera fed to his phone app, but he hadn't checked it in months. That night, after Dana fell asleep, Jack went to his workshop and pulled up the camera footage on his phone. The camera had a wide angle that covered the garage entrance and part of the driveway. He scrolled back through 2 weeks of recordings, fast-forwarding through empty frames. There, Tuesday night, 11:23 p.m. Dana's Honda pulled into the garage, but she didn't get out immediately. The passenger door opened first. A man stepped out, tall, dark hair, wearing khakis and a button-down shirt. He walked around to Dana's door and opened it for her. They stood close together for 30 seconds before going inside through the house door. Jack's hands shook as he screenshotted the timestamp. He scrolled forward. The man left at 12:47 a.m., again through the garage. Dana walked him to his car, a black BMW sedan parked in the street. They embraced before he drove away. His wife was bringing her lover into their house, into his workshop, into the home he'd worked 14 years of offshore rotations to pay for. Jack saved the footage and went back inside. Dana was sleeping peacefully, her face relaxed in the dim light from the hallway. She looked younger when she slept, like the woman he'd married in Vegas after 6 months of dating. She'd been 23 then, working as a receptionist at an insurance office, dreaming of a bigger life. He'd been 25, fresh off his first rig job, convinced he could give her everything she wanted. Maybe he'd been wrong about what she wanted. Patricia Wells called on Friday afternoon while Jack was replacing brake pads on his truck. "I've got preliminary results," she said. "Are you somewhere private?" Jack walked to the back of Luke's shop. "Go ahead." Subject's name is Eric Towns, assistant principal at Clearwater High School. Divorced, 2 kids he sees weekends. Clean credit, no criminal history. Lives alone in a condo on River Street. How long has this been going on? Hard to say exactly, but I followed them Thursday night. Dinner at Romano's, then back to his place. They weren't acting like it was their first date. Jack closed his eyes. Romano's was where he'd taken Dana for their anniversary 3 months ago. She'd barely spoken during dinner, checking her phone constantly, claiming the PTA was having a crisis. I need photos, he said. I've got them. But Jack, there's something else. I ran a background check on your wife. She's been busy. What do you mean? New credit cards in her name only, a storage unit rented last month. And she's been meeting with a divorce attorney. The phone felt heavy in Jack's hand. Which attorney? Harrison and Associates, downtown Houston, specializes in high-asset divorces. Dana was planning to leave him. The affair wasn't a moment of weakness or a midlife crisis. It was an exit strategy. How much time do I have? Jack asked. If she files first, you're playing defense. Texas is a community property state, but if she can prove you abandoned the marriage or show unfitness as a parent, she gets leverage. Plus, she's positioning herself as the stable parent while you're offshore half the time. Jack thanked Patricia and hung up. His wife wasn't just cheating on him. She was maneuvering to take his daughter, his house, and half his assets, while blaming him for the failure of their marriage. But Dana had made one crucial mistake. She thought Jack was just a blue-collar worker who wouldn't fight back. She'd forgotten that offshore riggers survived by being methodical, patient, and 3 steps ahead of disaster. Time to remind her. Saturday morning, Jack volunteered to drive Mira to her soccer game. In the car, he casually mentioned that Dana seemed stressed lately. She's been acting super weird, Mira confirmed, adjusting her seatbelt. Like yesterday, she started crying while making dinner, then got mad when I asked what was wrong. And she keeps talking about how hard it must be for me to have a dad who's never home. What do you think about that? Mira looked out the window. I mean, yeah, it sucks sometimes, but you work hard for us. Mom acts like you're offshore for fun or something. Your mom's under a lot of pressure with the PTA. Dad. Mira turned to face him. The PTA meets twice a month. She's gone almost every night now. Either I'm stupid or something else is going on. Jack's daughter was 16, not 6. She could see the cracks in their family as clearly as he could. What do you want me to do about it? He asked. I don't know. But whatever's happening, I don't want you guys to get divorced. Sarah's parents split last year, and now she lives in 2 different houses, and her dad moved to California. I don't want that. Jack pulled into the soccer complex parking lot. Mira, no matter what happens between your mom and me, you're the most important thing in my life. That's never going to change. She hugged him before getting out of the car. I love you, Dad. Love you too, kiddo. Jack watched his daughter run toward the field, cleats clicking on asphalt. Dana was trying to turn Mira against him, painting him as an absent father who cared more about work than family. It was a smart strategy. Family courts favored mothers, especially mothers who could claim abandonment. But Mira was old enough to choose which parent she wanted to live with, and right now, she was choosing him. After the soccer game, Jack drove to Home Depot and bought a small wireless recording device designed for home security. That evening, while Dana was at another mysterious PTA meeting, he installed it under the kitchen table, hidden behind the center support beam. The device could record for 72 hours and transmit audio to his phone. Monday morning, Dana kissed him goodbye at the front door. 2 weeks this time? Standard rotation? I'll miss you. She smiled, but her eyes were already looking past him toward something else. Jack drove to the heliport and caught the crew transport to Platform 7. The other riggers talked about football and fishing during the flight. Jack stared out the window and planned his wife's destruction. On the rig, he worked his shifts and monitored the audio from the kitchen recorder. Most of it was routine. Mira doing homework, Dana making phone calls about genuine PTA business. But on Wednesday night, he heard something that made his blood freeze. Dana's voice, talking to someone on speakerphone. He's so clueless. 2 weeks offshore, and he has no idea what's happening at home. Honestly, Eric, sometimes I think he's too stupid to see what's right in front of him. A man's laugh. Maybe he doesn't want to see it. Trust me, Jack only cares about work. As long as his paycheck clears and his dinner's ready, he's happy. He's never asked me a single question about where I go or what I do. What about Mira? She'll adjust. Kids are resilient, Besides, once the divorce is final, she'll see how much better life can be. No more waiting for Daddy to come home from his oil rig. You sure about the timeline? My lawyer says 6 months, maybe less if Jack doesn't contest. With his work schedule, he can't claim to be the primary caregiver, and I've been documenting his absences. Jack saved the audio file and set the phone aside. His wife was discussing their divorce like a business transaction, reducing their 18-year marriage to a custody battle and asset division. She thought he was too stupid to fight back. Time to show her how wrong she was. Jack requested emergency shore leave, claiming a family crisis. The rig supervisor granted it without question. Jack had worked 14 years without missing a shift. The helicopter carried him back to shore on Friday afternoon. He didn't go home immediately. Instead, he drove to Patricia Wells's office and played her the audio recording. "This is good," Patricia said. "Shows premeditation and planning. But you need more if you want to flip the custody situation." "What kind of more?" "Evidence that she's unfit as a parent. Neglect, substance abuse, putting the child in danger. Just having an affair isn't enough." Jack thought about Mira's comments. The late nights, the closed-door phone calls, the emotional manipulation. What if she's bringing him to the house when Mira's there? That would be something. Exposing a minor to an extramarital relationship can be grounds for reduced custody, especially if the child is aware of what's happening. Jack paid Patricia for another week of surveillance and drove home. Dana's Honda was in the driveway next to Eric's BMW. It was 6:30 on a Friday evening, and his wife was entertaining her lover in their house while their daughter was upstairs. He parked 2 blocks away and called Mira's cell phone. "Dad, I thought you weren't coming back until Sunday." "Change of plans. Where are you?" "At home. Mom has a friend over from the PTA. They're in the living room talking about fundraiser stuff." "A friend from the PTA." Jack closed his eyes. "Mira, I need you to do something for me. Go to your room and pack a bag. Clothes for a few days, your school books, anything important." "Why? What's wrong?" "I'll explain later. Just trust me, okay?" "Pack your bag and wait for my call." "Dad, you're scaring me." "I know, sweetheart. But I need you to trust me. Can you do that?" "Okay, but Dad?" "Yeah. Is this about Mom's friend? Because he's been here before and it's weird. Like they sit really close together and whisper a lot." Jack's heart broke for his daughter. She knew something was wrong but didn't understand what she was seeing. "Pack your bag, Mira. I'll be there in 20 minutes. Jack drove to the house and parked in the driveway behind the BMW. He sat in his truck for a moment, looking at the home he'd worked so hard to provide. The porch light was on, yellow light spilling across the front steps. Through the living room window, he could see 2 figures on the couch. He walked to the front door and used his key. Dana's voice stopped mid-sentence as he stepped into the foyer. The living room was to his right, and he could see her on the couch next to a tall man in khakis and a polo shirt. They weren't touching, but they were sitting closer than friends. "Jack?" Dana stood up quickly. "You're early. Mechanical problems on the rig. They sent us home." Jack looked at the man, who was also standing now. "You must be Eric." The man extended his hand. "Eric Towns. Nice to meet you, Jack." "Dana's told me so much about you." Jack didn't shake his hand. "I'm sure she has." The silence stretched out uncomfortably. Dana fidgeted with her wedding ring, a nervous habit Jack recognized. "Eric was just helping me plan the spring fundraiser," she said. "We were discussing corporate sponsorships." On Friday night. "The PTA work never stops," Eric said with a laugh that sounded forced. "You know how dedicated Dana is." Jack knew exactly how dedicated his wife was, just not to what Eric thought. "Well, don't let me interrupt." Jack headed for the stairs. "I'm going to shower and check on Mira." In his daughter's room, he found her sitting on her bed with a packed duffel bag, looking scared and confused. "Dad, what's going on?" Jack sat beside her and took her hands. "Mira, I need to tell you something difficult. Your mom and I are having problems." "Is it because of her friend downstairs?" Jack looked into his daughter's eyes and saw that she already knew. Maybe not the details, but she understood that something was wrong. "Yeah, kiddo, it is." Mira started crying. "Are you getting divorced?" "I don't know yet. But I want you to know that none of this is your fault, and whatever happens, I'm going to take care of you." "Can I stay with you?" "Do you want to?" She nodded, wiping her eyes. "Mom's been acting really weird lately. She keeps asking me questions about you, like she's trying to get me to say bad things. And she told me you might not be able to live with us anymore because of your job. Dana was already poisoning their daughter against him, preparing Mira for their father's absence from her life. Get your bag, Jack said. We're leaving. Oh, where are we going? Uncle Luke's house, just for tonight. They went downstairs together. Dana and Eric were still in the living room, but now they were standing farther apart, clearly having had a whispered conversation about Jack's unexpected return. Mira's going to stay at Luke's tonight, Jack announced. Dana's face went white. What? No, she's not. It's a school night. Luke lives 10 minutes from school. I'll drive her. Jack, we need to talk about this. Do we? Jack looked at Eric, who was clearly uncomfortable with the family drama. Don't let us keep you, Eric. I'm sure you have somewhere to be. Eric glanced at Dana, then back at Jack. Maybe I should go. Good idea. Dana walked Eric to the door, and Jack heard them whispering in the foyer. Then the front door closed, and Dana returned to the living room. Jack, I can explain. Explain what? That your PTA meetings happen on my couch now? It's not what you think. What is it then? Dana looked at Mira, who was standing next to Jack with her duffel bag. Not in front of her? She's 16, Dana. She's not stupid. Daddy, Mira said quietly. Can we just go? Jack put his arm around his daughter. Yeah, we can go. They left Dana standing in the living room, and Jack felt something shift inside him as he closed the front door. The careful observation phase was over. Now it was time to act. At Luke's apartment, Jack tucked Mira into the guest room and told her he loved her. Then he sat at Luke's kitchen table and made a list of everything he needed to do. First, he called Patricia Wells. I need to accelerate the timeline, he told her. My wife knows I'm suspicious. She's going to either file for divorce immediately or get better at hiding the affair. What do you want to do? I want to destroy her. Patricia was quiet for a moment. Jack, I understand you're angry, but revenge has a way of backfiring. Focus on protecting your daughter and your assets. That's exactly what I'm doing. The next morning, Jack drove Mira to school and then went to see a divorce attorney. Not Harrison and Associates, where Dana was shopping for legal representation, but a smaller firm across town recommended by Patricia. The attorney, Sarah Mitchell, was in her 50s with gray hair and sharp eyes. She listened to Jack's story without interruption, occasionally taking notes. Your wife has been planning this for months, Sarah said when he finished. The secret meetings with attorneys, the documentation of your absences, the affair, she's building a case that you abandoned the family. Can she win? In Texas, she doesn't have to prove fault for the divorce itself. But she can use your work schedule to argue for primary custody and a larger share of assets. Judges tend to favor the parent who's physically present. What if I can prove she's unfit? Sarah raised an eyebrow. What kind of proof? Jack told her about the audio recordings, the security footage, and Patricia's surveillance photos. That's a start, Sarah said. But adultery alone won't flip custody unless you can show it directly harmed the child. You need to document how her behavior affects Mira. Jack left the attorney's office with a clear strategy. He needed to force Dana into making mistakes, into revealing her true character when she thought no one was watching. That afternoon, he picked up Mira from school and took her to lunch. How are you doing with all this? He asked. Confused, scared. Mira picked at her sandwich. Is Mom really having an affair? What do you think? I think she is. The way she acts around that guy. The way she's been lying about where she goes. I'm not stupid, Dad. I know you're not. And I'm sorry you have to deal with this. Are you going to fight for custody of me? Jack looked at his daughter across the restaurant table. 16 years old, caught between two parents who were about to tear each other apart in court. Do you want me to? Yes, but I don't want to have to choose sides. You won't have to choose sides, Mira, but you might have to tell the truth about what you've seen and heard. She nodded solemnly. I can do that. That evening, Jack returned to the house to get more clothes for himself and Mira. Dana was waiting in the kitchen, still in her work clothes from the insurance office. We need to talk, she said. About what? About you taking Mira without discussing it with me first. About you embarrassing me in front of Eric. About whatever this paranoid episode is that you're having. Jack poured himself a cup of coffee and sat at the kitchen island. Paranoid episode? Yes, you're acting like I'm some kind of criminal. Eric is a colleague. We work together on PTA business. What kind of PTA business requires private meetings at Romano's? Dana's face went pale. Who told you that? Does it matter? Jack, I can explain. Then explain. Dana sat across from him, hands folded on the counter. Eric and I have become friends. Good friends, maybe more than friends. But nothing has happened between us. Nothing has happened. Not physically. I mean, there's an attraction, but we haven't acted on it. Jack pulled out his phone and played the audio recording of her conversation with Eric. Dana's voice filled the kitchen. He's so clueless. 2 weeks offshore and he has no idea what's happening at home. Dana listened to her own words with growing horror. Where did you get that? You've been talking about our divorce for months, Dana. Planning it, strategizing how to take Mira away from me. All while I'm offshore working to pay for this house, your car, her school clothes. Jack, I know about Harrison and Associates. I know about the storage unit. I know about the new credit cards. Dana stared at him across the kitchen island, her carefully constructed lies crumbling around her. You hired someone to spy on me. I hired someone to document the truth. The truth? Dana's voice rose. The truth is that I've been lonely for 16 years while you disappear for weeks at a time. The truth is that you care more about that oil rig than you do about your own family. The truth is that you've been planning to leave me while pretending everything was fine, using our daughter as a tool against me, making her think I don't care about her. I've never said anything bad about you to Mira. You told her I might not be able to live with you anymore because of my job. You've been asking her leading questions, trying to get her to complain about my absences. You're poisoning her against me. Dana stood up abruptly. I want you out of this house. It's my house, too. Not for long. Jack finished his coffee and stood. You're right about that, but not for the reasons you think. He left Dana in the kitchen and went upstairs to pack more clothes. In their bedroom, he looked around at the life they'd built together. Family photos on the dresser, Dana's jewelry box, his work boots by the closet door. 18 years of marriage reduced to a custody battle and asset division. His phone buzzed with a text from Patricia Wells. Call me, important development. Jack called her from his truck in the driveway. I followed your wife to Eric's condo tonight, Patricia said. She's still there. But that's not the important part. What is? I ran a deeper background check on Eric Towns. He's got a problem. What kind of problem? Financial. He owes back taxes, child support, and alimony. His ex-wife has been trying to garnish his wages for 6 months. This guy isn't just having an affair with your wife. He needs her money. Jack absorbed this information. You think that's why he's with her? I think your wife represents security to a man who's drowning in debt, and I think she has no idea. Can you prove it? I can document his financial situation. Court records are public. Whether your wife knows about it is harder to prove, but if she's planning to marry this guy after your divorce, she's in for a shock. Jack thanked Patricia and hung up. His wife was having an affair with a man who saw her as a meal ticket. When the divorce was final and Dana got her settlement, Eric would be right there to help her spend it, unless Jack prevented the divorce from happening the way Dana planned. Monday morning, Jack drove Mira to school and then went to the Clearwater High School administration office. He asked to speak with the principal about a concern regarding his daughter's education. Principal Matthews was a woman in her 60s who'd been running the school for 15 years. She listened politely as Jack expressed his concerns about the PTA's financial management. I've noticed some irregularities, Jack said carefully. Contracts being awarded to vendors without proper bidding. My wife Dana serves on the PTA board, and she's mentioned some concerning decisions. What kind of decisions? Well, for example, I understand that cleaning supplies have been purchased from a company owned by Assistant Principal Towns' family. Member. That seems like a conflict of interest. Principal Matthews frowned. I wasn't aware of any family connections to our vendors. Jack had done his homework. Eric's cousin owned a janitorial supply company that had received 3 PTA contracts in the past 6 months. The connection wasn't illegal, but it was ethically questionable. I'm probably worrying about nothing, Jack said. But with all the budget pressures schools face, I think transparency is important. I agree completely. Thank you for bringing this to my attention. Jack left the meeting knowing he'd planted a seed of doubt about Eric's ethics. Principal Matthews would investigate, and she'd find the vendor connections. Eric's professional reputation would take a hit. That afternoon, Jack drove to Eric's condo complex and waited in the parking lot. At 5:30, Eric emerged from a black BMW, the same car Jack had seen in his security footage. Jack followed him to a restaurant across town. Inside the restaurant, Jack sat at the bar and watched Eric have dinner with a woman who wasn't Dana. The woman was blonde, younger, and clearly comfortable with Eric. They held hands across the table and kissed when they thought no one was looking. Jack took photos with his phone and sent them to Patricia Wells. Eric wasn't just having an affair with Dana, he was having affairs with multiple women. When Jack got back to Luke's apartment, Mira was doing homework at the kitchen table. "How was school?" he asked. "Weird. Mom picked me up instead of letting me take the bus. She kept asking me questions about what you've been telling me." "What kind of questions? Like, has Dad said anything bad about me? Has he told you we might not live together anymore?" Stuff like that. Dana was getting desperate, trying to use Mira as a source of information about Jack's plans. "What did you tell her?" "The truth. That you've been really nice to me and that you're trying to protect me from whatever's going on between you guys." Jack hugged his daughter. "You don't have to protect me, Mira. Just be honest about what you see and hear." "Dad, can I ask you something? What's going to happen to us?" Jack looked at his 16-year-old daughter, trying to give her hope without making promises he couldn't keep. "I'm going to make sure you're safe and taken care of, no matter what. That's all I can promise right now." That night, Jack called his lawyer, Sarah Mitchell, and updated her on the day's developments. "You're building a good case," Sarah said. "The financial irregularities at school, the multiple affairs, the manipulation of your daughter, it all paints a picture of someone who makes poor decisions. Is it enough? It's getting there, but Jack, you need to be careful. If your wife realizes how much evidence you're gathering, she might file for divorce immediately and claim you're harassing her." "How long do I have?" "Hard to say, but I'd be prepared to file first if necessary." Jack hung up and stared at the ceiling of Luke's guest room. Filing first would mean officially ending his marriage, admitting that 18 years together had come to this. But if waiting meant losing Mira, the choice was simple. The next morning brought a call from Patricia Wells. "Your wife met with her attorney yesterday afternoon," Patricia said. "Emergency consultation." "She's accelerating her timeline." "How do you know?" "I have contacts at Harrison and Associates. Dana is planning to file for divorce by the end of the week and request immediate temporary custody based on your absence from the home." Jack felt the walls closing in. "What's my move?" "File first, today. Claim abandonment based on her affair and request primary custody based on her unfit behavior." Jack called Sarah Mitchell and arranged to meet her at the courthouse. By 3 o'clock that afternoon, Jack Merritt had filed for divorce from Dana Merritt, citing adultery and requesting primary custody of their minor child. Dana's phone started ringing before Jack had left the courthouse. "Jack, what the hell did you do?" "I filed for divorce. Since you were planning to do it anyway, I saved you the trouble." "You can't do this. You can't take Mira away from me." "I'm not taking her away. I'm asking the court to decide what's best for her. She belongs with me. I'm her mother, and I'm her father. The father who's been working offshore for 16 years to support his family. The father who didn't abandon his marriage for a man who's using him for money." Silence on the other end of the line. "You don't know what you're talking about," Dana said, but her voice lacked conviction. "I know Eric owes $30,000 in back taxes. I know he's behind on child support to his ex-wife. I know he's been seeing other women while he's been seeing you. Should I keep going?" Another long silence. "Dana, you threw away 18 years of marriage for a man who sees you as a bank account. When this divorce is final and you get your settlement, watch how fast he marries you and then starts finding reasons to spend your money." Jack hung up and drove to Mira's school to pick her up. His daughter was quiet during the drive, staring out the window with a troubled expression. "Mom called the school office today," she finally said. "She wanted to change my emergency contact information. Remove you and add Eric." Jack's hands tightened on the steering wheel. "What did you tell them?" "I told them not to change anything without talking to you first. The secretary said they'd need both parents to agree anyway." Dana was moving fast, trying to establish Eric as a parental figure before the divorce proceedings began. It was a smart legal strategy, but it showed how little she cared about Mira's emotional well-being. "Mira, how do you feel about Eric?" "Honestly, he creeps me out. He tries too hard to be my friend, like he's acting in a play or something." And Mom becomes this weird, giggly person when he's around. It's gross. That evening, Jack received another call from Patricia Wells. "I've got more photos," she said. "Your wife and Eric at his condo, but this time they're arguing. Looked heated. Want me to try to get audio?" "Do it." 2 hours later, Patricia called back. "Interesting development. I got close enough to hear some of their conversation through an open window. Your wife found out about Eric's financial problems. She's furious." "What did she say?" "She accused him of using her. He denied it, but then she mentioned the other women. Apparently, she's been doing her own investigating. The relationship is falling apart." Jack absorbed this information. Dana's perfect plan was crumbling. Her lover was exposed as a fraud. Her daughter was choosing her father, and her husband had filed for divorce first. "There's more," Patricia continued. "She's talking about withdrawing her divorce petition and trying to reconcile with you." "What?" "Classic panic response. She realizes she's about to lose everything, so now she wants to go back to the status quo." Jack thought about this possibility. Dana would come home, apologize, promise to end the affair, and beg for another chance. She'd be the perfect wife for a few months, maybe even a year. Then when his guard was down, she'd start planning her exit again. "Not happening," he said. "Good, because I think you're about to win this case." Friday morning, Jack was drinking coffee at Luke's kitchen table when his phone rang. The caller ID showed Dana's number. "Jack, we need to talk." "About what?" "About us, about our marriage. I made a mistake with Eric, but it's over now. We can work through this." "No, we can't. Please, Jack, just give me a chance to explain. Meet me for coffee. 1 hour." Jack looked at his reflection in Luke's kitchen window. He could meet with Dana, listen to her apologies and promises, maybe even believe them for a moment. But he'd already seen who she really was when she thought no one was watching. "There's nothing to explain, Dana." "What about Mira?" "Don't you want our family to stay together for her sake? I want Mira to grow up seeing what a healthy relationship looks like. That's not us anymore." "Jack, please." "Goodbye, Dana." He hung up and finished his coffee. 30 minutes later, his phone buzzed with a text message. "I'm not giving up on our marriage. I love you." Jack deleted the message without responding. That afternoon, Sarah Mitchell called with an update. "The court has scheduled a hearing for next Wednesday. Your wife's attorney is pushing for mediation instead of a trial." "What does that mean?" "They want to negotiate a settlement without going before a judge." "Probably because they know their case is weak." "What kind of settlement?" "Hard to say, but given the evidence you've gathered, you're in a strong position. They might offer joint custody and a more equitable property division." Jack thought about it. Joint custody meant Mira would spend half her time with Dana and Eric, assuming Dana didn't end the relationship completely. It meant continued conflict and confusion for his daughter. "I want primary custody." "Jack, that's a high bar. Even with everything you've documented, courts are reluctant to limit a mother's access to her child." "Then we go to trial." Sarah was quiet for a moment. "That's expensive and risky. And it will be hard on Mira." "What's harder on Mira? A few months of court proceedings or years of living between two parents who hate each other?" "All right, we'll prepare for trial." That evening, Jack sat down with Mira and explained what was happening. "There's going to be a court hearing next week," he said. "You might have to talk to a judge about what you want." "What should I say?" "The truth. About what you've seen and heard, about how you feel." Mira nodded solemnly. "Dad, what if Mom gets better? What if she stops seeing Eric and goes back to normal?" Jack looked at his daughter, trying to find the right words. "Mira, sometimes people show you who they really are when they think no one's watching. Your mom showed me someone I don't recognize anymore. But she's still my mom." "Yes, she is. And she always will be. But that doesn't mean we have to pretend things are the same as they were before." Monday morning brought unexpected news. Eric Towns had been placed on administrative leave from Clearwater High School pending an investigation into conflicts of interest regarding PTA vendor contracts. Jack's conversation with Principal Matthews had borne fruit. The school board was taking the financial irregularities seriously, and Eric's career was in jeopardy. That afternoon, Patricia Wells called with another update. "Your wife went to Eric's condo last night. Big fight in the parking lot. Neighbors called security. She left in tears. Is she still trying to salvage the relationship?" "Doesn't look like it." Eric's been telling people she's crazy, that she stalked him and he was trying to let her down easy. He's rewriting the whole narrative to protect himself. Jack felt a strange mix of satisfaction and pity. Dana had destroyed her marriage for a man who was now publicly humiliating her to save his own reputation. Tuesday evening, Dana called one more time. Jack, Eric was using me. You were right about everything. He never cared about me. He just wanted my money. I know. We can start over. We can go to counseling, work on our problems. I'll do whatever it takes. Jack looked around Luke's living room, where Mira was doing homework, and Luke was watching television. This felt more like a family than his house had in months. Dana, it's too late. It's not too late. We have 18 years together. That has to count for something. It does count. It counts as 18 years you were planning your exit strategy. That's not fair. Fair? Jack's voice hardened. You recorded our conversations to use against me in court. You tried to turn our daughter against me. You brought another man into our house, into our bed. What part of that was fair? Dana started crying. I know I made mistakes. But people make mistakes, Jack. You're not perfect either. You're right. I'm not perfect. But I never betrayed you. I never lied to you about where I was or who I was with. I never plotted to take your daughter away from you. She's my daughter, too. Then you should have thought about that before you decided she was worth less than your affair. Jack hung up and turned off his phone. Tomorrow was the court hearing, and he was ready. Wednesday morning, Jack wore his best suit to the courthouse. Sarah Mitchell met him outside the family court building carrying a briefcase full of evidence. How are you feeling? She asked. Ready. Inside the courtroom, Dana sat at a table with her attorney, a thin man in an expensive suit. She looked tired and older than her 41 years. When she saw Jack, she attempted a sad smile, but he looked away. Judge Patricia Hendricks was a stern woman in her 60s who'd been handling family cases for 20 years. She reviewed the files briefly before calling the hearing to order. This is a contested divorce with custody dispute, Judge Hendricks announced. Mr. Merritt is seeking primary custody of the minor child. Mrs. Merritt is requesting joint custody and spousal support. Let's hear opening statements. Sarah Mitchell stood first. Your Honor, this case involves a systematic pattern of deception, financial manipulation, and emotional abuse. Mrs. Merritt has been planning to abandon her marriage while using the minor child as leverage against her husband. We have audio recordings, surveillance evidence, and witness testimony that demonstrates Mrs. Merritt is unfit for primary custody. Dana's attorney, Michael Harrison, countered smoothly. Your Honor, Mr. Merritt has hired private investigators to stalk his wife and has removed the child from the family home without consultation. His work requires extended absences, making him unsuitable for primary custody. Mrs. Merritt has been the primary caregiver for 16 years. Judge Hendricks looked at both attorneys. I'll hear evidence from both sides. Mr. Mitchell, you may present your case. Sarah played the audio recording of Dana discussing the divorce with Eric. The courtroom was silent as Dana's voice filled the room. He's so clueless. 2 weeks offshore and he has no idea what's happening at home. Then came the surveillance photos of Dana and Eric entering his condo, the security footage of Eric leaving the Merritt house at midnight, and the documentation of Eric's financial problems. Your Honor, Sarah said, Mrs. Merritt endangered her daughter by bringing an unstable man into the family home. She lied repeatedly to her husband and child. She attempted to manipulate the minor child against her father. This is not the behavior of a fit parent. Harrison tried to minimize the evidence. Your Honor, my client admits to poor judgment in her personal relationships, but that doesn't make her an unfit mother. She has provided excellent care for her daughter for 16 years. By lying to her constantly? Sarah shot back. By exposing her to adult situations? By trying to turn her against her father? Judge Hendricks called for a brief recess. In the hallway, Jack saw Dana crying in the bathroom doorway. For a moment, he felt the old urge to comfort her. Then he remembered her voice on the recording, calling him stupid, planning to take his daughter away. The feeling passed. When court resumed, Judge Hendricks called Mira to testify. Jack's daughter walked to the witness stand in her school clothes, looking nervous but determined. Mira, the judge said gently, I'm going to ask you some questions about your family. Just tell me the truth, okay? Yes, ma'am. How do you feel about your parents' separation? Sad, but not surprised. Why not surprised? My mom has been acting different for months. Staying out late, lying about where she goes, bringing strangers to the house. Strangers, Mr. Towns. He comes over when Dad's working and Mom acts weird around him. Like, she changes her voice and laughs at everything he says. Judge Hendricks made notes. How do you feel when your father is working offshore? I miss him, but I understand why he has to work. He calls me every day when he's gone. He helps me with homework over video chat. Mom acts like he doesn't care about us, but that's not true. Where would you prefer to live? Mira looked at Dana, then at Jack. With my dad. He doesn't lie to me. Harrison tried to cross-examine Mira, but she stuck to her story. Yes, her father was absent for work, but he was present when he was home. Yes, her mother took care of her daily needs, but she also brought inappropriate people into their home and lied about it. Judge Hendricks called another recess to review the evidence. Jack sat in the hallway with Sarah, watching court personnel move between courtrooms. How do you think it went? He asked. Better than I expected. Your daughter was very credible, and the judge seems concerned about your wife's behavior. An hour later, they returned to the courtroom for Judge Hendricks' decision. This is a difficult case involving a family in crisis, the judge began. However, based on the evidence presented, I find that Mrs. Merritt has demonstrated a pattern of deception and poor judgment that affects her fitness as a custodial parent. Dana started crying again. Therefore, I am awarding primary physical custody to Mr. Merritt, with supervised visitation for Mrs. Merritt until she completes court-mandated counseling. The marital assets will be divided equally, with no spousal support awarded due to Mrs. Merritt's adultery. Jack felt a weight lift from his shoulders. Mira would be safe with him. Dana's plan had failed completely. Outside the courthouse, Dana approached Jack one final time. You destroyed my life, she said. No, Dana. You destroyed your own life. I just documented it. You turned my daughter against me. I didn't have to turn her against you. You did that yourself when you chose Eric over your family. Dana stared at him with a mixture of hatred and disbelief. You think you've won? You think this is over? It is over. You lost the moment you decided I was too stupid to notice what you were doing. Jack walked away, leaving his ex-wife standing on the courthouse steps. 18 years of marriage had ended with a judge's gavel and a folder full of evidence. 6 months later, Jack stood on the deck of Platform 7, watching the sun set over the Gulf of Mexico. The rig hummed with activity around him, but he felt a peace he hadn't experienced in years. His phone buzzed with a text from Mira. Got an A on my history test. See you Friday when you get home. Love you, Dad. Home. Jack had bought a modest house near Luke's shop, close to Mira's school. It wasn't as big as the suburban dream house he'd shared with Dana, but it was honest, no lies, no secrets, no hidden agendas. Dana had completed her court-mandated counseling and now had unsupervised visitation every other weekend. She'd moved into a small apartment across town and taken a second job to pay her legal fees. Eric Towns had been fired from the school district and moved to another state. Their relationship had ended as quickly as it began, leaving Dana to face the consequences of her choices alone. Patricia Wells had sent Jack a final report. Case closed. Subject has no ongoing relationships of concern. Recommend annual check-ins for minor child safety. Jack deleted the report and Patricia's contact information. He didn't need to watch Dana anymore. The court order protected Mira, and Dana had learned that actions had consequences. Sometimes, late at night, Jack thought about the 18 years he'd spent loving a woman who saw him as a meal ticket and an obstacle to her happiness. He thought about the years of careful planning she'd put into destroying their marriage while he worked offshore to support their family. But mostly, he thought about Mira. His daughter was thriving in their new life, making good grades, playing soccer, talking about college plans. She visited Dana regularly, but always came home to Jack with relief and happiness. Jack's phone rang, interrupting his thoughts. It was Mira calling from her study group. Hey, Dad, just wanted to check in. Mrs. Patterson says hi. Tell her I said hello. How's the homework going? Good. We're studying the Constitution. Did you know the founders were really worried about checks and balances? Like, they didn't want any one person to have too much power? Jack smiled, watching the last light fade from the western sky. Smart men. They understood that power without accountability corrupts people. Exactly. Hey, Dad? Yeah, kiddo. Thanks for fighting for me. I know it was expensive and hard, but I'm glad you did it. You don't have to thank me for that, Mira. You're my daughter. I'll always fight for you. After they hung up, Jack stood alone on the platform, surrounded by the sound of machinery and ocean waves. The rig would run all night, extracting oil from deep beneath the seafloor, turning raw materials into something valuable, not unlike what he'd done with his life. He'd taken the raw materials of betrayal and lies and turned them into truth and justice. He'd protected his daughter and preserved his own dignity. Dana had been right about one thing. He'd been too stupid to notice what was happening at first. But she'd been wrong about everything else. Jack wasn't just some blue-collar worker who'd roll over and accept defeat. He was a man who understood that the hardest work happened in the depths, under pressure, where only the strongest materials survived. The rig below had taught him patience, precision, and the value of preparation. When the time came to defend his family, those lessons had served him well. Jack finished his shift and went inside to call his daughter goodnight. Tomorrow he'd be home, and they'd have dinner together, and she'd tell him about her day. Simple things, honest things, the kind of life worth fighting for.